الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله فإن الله تعالى مع المتقين وبعد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He calls us the best of nations. He calls the nation of Islam, i.e. the nation of Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, the followers of the best of man and the best of creation, Sayyidul Anbiya'i wal Khalqi Ajma'een. He calls us the best of nations. But there are conditions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that you call to that which is good. And what is good? Everything that is Islam. That's what is good, in brief. The framework given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His Messenger alayhi salatu salam. وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and you prohibit that which is wicked, that which is evil, that which is illicit, that which is not good for your dunya, nor is it good for your akhirah. And in brief, everything which has been prohibited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. So not only is it that we have to call to the good and forbid the wicked and the evil, but we have to act by that which we call to. We have to implement the good and stay away from the bad in our own lives. And if we do that, we are the best of nations, i.e. an ummah of da'wah, an ummah of da'wah. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he spoke about inheritance. He spoke about inheritance, and he said, al-ulama warathatul anbiya, that the ulama, the people of knowledge, and the alim is man amila bi'ilmihi, the one who has acquired some knowledge and implements it, acts upon it. He said alayhi salatu salam, al-ulama warathatul anbiya, that the scholars, the people of knowledge, are the inheritors of the prophets. And then the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, he goes on to say, وَمَا وَرَّثُوا دِينَارًا وَلَا دِرْهَمًا, أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. He said they did not leave behind, i.e. the prophets, darahim and dananir, money, wealth of a financial nature, but they left behind ilm, knowledge. And why is it that the alim has a high status in Islam? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, al-alimu kal-badr. He said that the scholar is like the moon on its brightest of nights. Why? Because they call to the good. How so? By teaching people. By teaching people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us as an ummah, I am talking about now the Muslims in the UK and Europe. As an ummah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us all to be teachers to one capacity or another. And by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's grace and virtue for us that He has blessed us with, we have been given examples of young teachers within our community. Young teachers within our community over the last few months that have been calling people to Islam with their actions. Not only do they act as Muslims with their tongues, but they've been calling brothers and sisters to Islam with their actions. We have new young members of our community. They came to Islam through their friends. Through their friends. And we should look at these young brothers and be inspired. Young sisters and be inspired. Last week, the masjid arranged a trip for the young brothers of our community, and from them, the young new Muslims, and some of them young in heart, perhaps not necessarily in age. And we were amazed to find praying in a masjid in a small town that you would not assume to find da'wah taking place, to find a young man, perhaps 13 or 12 years old, and he's bringing his friends to the masjid. Young English boys bringing them to the masjid. Da'wah. Da'wah. And that young man, perhaps he doesn't comprehend how great the action that he's doing actually is. Perhaps he doesn't comprehend. Because if those two young boys become Muslim, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, that young man is going to have the reward of every single action that they engage in for the rest of their lives. The Prophet ﷺ, he said to Ali radiallahu anhu, لَأَن يَهْدِيَ اللَّهُ بِكَ رَجُلًا وَاحِدًا خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنْ حُمْرِ النِّعَمِ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. He said, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide through you one person is better for you in meaning than the entire dunya. Better for you than everything this dunya has to offer. And how many of us, we spend our lives running after this dunya, trying to acquire a home, thinking about a new car, thinking about new clothes, thinking about nice things to eat. By spending a small amount of our time in calling others to Islam, we can acquire better than this dunya and everything in it. And no man has the ability to acquire this entire dunya during his small life on this earth. It's impossible. It's impossible. Yet, by being the means of guidance for one person, you can have this dunya and everything in it when you transition into the next life, and it will be an eternal reward. An eternal reward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us about the Prophet ﷺ and his mission, that the Prophet ﷺ was sent as a rahmatan lil alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us the Prophet ﷺ was sent and his mission was given as a mercy for mankind in their entirety. A mercy for mankind. And we are the inheritors of that mission. We are the inheritors of that mercy. We are the upkeepers of that responsibility. And we have to understand that there are individuals outside, we can be the means of their guidance. How many nations they entered into Islam, not because of military might or strategic da'wah, but because of the interaction of the non-Muslims of the land with the Muslims who migrated there for various reasons. Many nations that currently exist today in the Southeast Asian continent, they entered into Islam through traders, through normal people. And when I say normal, i.e. they were not from the ulama or the scholarly class, etc. but they practiced Islam in their lives. And through the practice of Islam in their lives, the people became Muslim. When the Sahaba went to places such as Egypt, such as Sham, such as Persia, what is now known as Iran and Afghanistan and so on and so forth, parts of it anyway, the Sahaba did not force people into Islam. The Sahaba, they fought against the institutions of power during those times, but they did not fight the people on the ground. They did not force the people on the ground to become Muslim. The people on the ground became Muslim because of they saw the reality of a Muslim's life through living with the Muslims when the Muslims entered into their lands. Spain, today, Andalus. For nearly 800 years, the Muslims had a presence in Andalus. And the people were indigenous to Andalus. It was a mixed community. You had Arabs, yes, but you had Spanish, today called Spanish, Europeans, Portuguese. You had the Jews and the Christians still living there. And they became Muslim. They entered into Islam. Why? Because of the actions of the Muslims. They saw what Islam was through the behavior of the Muslims. We have been granted that opportunity. We have been granted the opportunity to be individuals that lead others to Islam. And on Yawm al-Qiyamah, we leave this life and we come to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we see mountains worth of good deeds. Mountains worth of good deeds. Why? Because we were a medium used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the guidance of others. We have that opportunity. And a person may ask, how? How can I be someone that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses for the guidance of others? وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ, by implementing that which we already have. That's it. By implementing the framework of Islam in our own lives. By being confident Muslims. When it's time to pray, I pray, regardless where I am. At work, I pray. At home, if I'm at home, I pray. When I'm in public, I pray. Sadaqah, by giving charity, being charitable. For example, when loaning to others, being charitable. If I'm a business owner, a shopkeeper, by being honorable and keeping to that which I agree to with my customers and going above and beyond. By being caring and overlooking. When I see a homeless person, giving them something, even if it's a small amount, asking them, talking to them, how are you? If I don't want to give them money, buy them some food. By dressing appropriately, in a dignified manner. In a dignified manner, a self-respecting manner. Just by being a good Muslim, I can be the means of others entering into Islam. Multiple individuals, I've spoken to myself, multiple individuals, they walk past the masjid and they ask, is that a mosque? Multiple times. Why? Because I see people hugging, smiling, shaking hands. I see the love, I see the energy, I see the happiness, and it draws people to the masjid. We're not trying to call people to Islam by hugging each other. We're not trying to call people to Islam by smiling at each other. We're simply following the way of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the secret to da'wah. That's the secret to da'wah. And we live in a time of status, fame, where individuals become representatives of communities, etc. online. But the reality is, the real hard work happens on the ground. The real hard work happens on the ground. Members of our community, walillah alhamd, one particular individual gave a mushaf to someone else, a Quran, a translated Quran in Italian. 2 years later, he came to the masjid, he became a Muslim. Perhaps he didn't think much of it at the time. A young person attending an event that he was invited to by his non-Muslim friend in school, developing a relationship with him and showing him what it means to be a good person. And that young boy, he became Muslim a few years later. These types of relationships, that's the work on the ground. That's where the da'wah is happening. And we all have the ability to be individuals who call others to Islam. We all have that ability. And we need to work hard, because we see right now what's happening in society. People are lonely. People are depressed. People are upset. People have lost purpose. Many people have lost a desire to live. And for us, Islam is our purpose. But it doesn't belong to us. It doesn't belong to us. It was sent to mankind. So we should be working hard. We should be trying to show them. We should be giving back to them for what they've given to us. Giving back to them for what they've given to us. Many of us as Muslims came over to the UK. Came over to the UK and we were treated with ihsan. That's a reality. Put the politics to the side. Put foreign policies to the side. As individuals, many of us came to the UK and were treated with ihsan. Were honored as guests. Given what we would not be given in the land of our forefathers. And so at the very least, we need to give back. And the best thing we can give back is the gift of Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who give back for that which we were given, and make us of those who stick to our principles and become shining lights for others. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده وصلوات ربي وسلامه على أشرف الأنبياء ومن تبعه وبعد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored us and blessed us, whether we became Muslim or we were born into Islam, with the greatest gift that we could ever receive in this life. Everything else that we have or we don't have is irrelevant. And unfortunately, we will not understand this point until we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rich will not care about their wealth when they're on their deathbed. The sick will not care about their health when they're on their deathbed. The white will not care about his color, nor the black when they're on their deathbed. The male or the female will not care about gender when they're on their deathbed. All of these issues that have become points of contention and points of identity in this life, when we are sitting or laying and we are anticipating the angel of death's arrival, none of these things will matter. The only thing that will matter at that moment of time is that we are Muslim and we have some good deeds in our bank and we have something to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with. That's the only thing that will matter. And so if that's the only relevant thing when we leave this life, it's the only thing that is worth our time when we are alive in this life, in this dunya. It's the only thing that's worth our time. Everything else is secondary. But by Allah's grace, in order to spend time on that which is primary, i.e. our deen, we have to spend time on that which is secondary. Our families, our responsibilities, society, standing up for justice and so on and so forth. All of these things. But with the right intention. We have to do those things with the right intention. And when done with the right intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place barakah into our lives. And as a way of showing our gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that gift, the best gift we can receive, Islam, we have to work hard in giving that gift to others. Look at the Sahaba, read about the Sahaba, how young they were when they became Muslim. Ali ibn Abi Talib, for example, a young boy, became one of the greatest of the Sahaba. Abdullah ibn Umar was a young man raised under the shade of the Prophet ﷺ. And read about them. Zayd ibn Thabit, Usama ibn Zayd. These men went on to become great men. Why? Because they had a direction, they had a purpose, which was what? To serve the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have to think about our purpose here. We have to think about, reflect on our purpose. We have been granted a great opportunity, a great opportunity. Living here where there are so many individuals who do not yet have Islam, we have the opportunity to give them Islam. Sometimes all it takes is a smile, a conversation, hand them an English Quran, buy them a meal, whatever it is, develop a relationship on the ground. We have to develop that himmah, the aspiration to be used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the service of His deen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make that the case. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those that guide and grant us guidance. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وارض اللهم عن أبي بكر وعن عمر وعن عثمان وعن علي وعن سائر الصحابة أجمعين. اللهم تب علينا واعف عنا. اللهم اجعلنا من المهتدين الهادين إليك يا رب العالمين. وأقم الصلاة.